belief, faith, and commitment. Sometimes that's referring to a spouse or maybe your religion. But in this case, it has to do with a stock, and that stock is Tesla. You've got to have all three of those things as it relates to the electric vehicle maker. Because as we sit here today, shares of Tesla over the past year are up 103%. The price to earnings ratio is at 160 times forward. Just 160 times forward on Tesla. And when the company announced their Q4 results, they had revenue growth of a meager 2%. And then when we go through the financials over at Tesla, you had automobile revenues, which is the number one revenue driver over the company. Those were actually down 8% year over year. Margins, income from operations, also all down year over year. But that is not why people invest in Tesla. That's not why people believe. You've got products coming potentially in 2025 and then later in 2026 that the company believes and some investors believe will drive huge revenue growth. We'll talk about some of those things. The Cybercab, full self-driving. We'll also talk about the Optimus robot as well. So we've got big, gigantic $10 trillion promises now from Elon Musk. Talk about what that means. We'll also talk about what it could mean for compute power as it relates to maybe semiconductors as well. We'll also look at this one technically as it's probably going to hit its head on some support, or in this case, resistance. And we'll discuss all of those things as we normally do. What is going on, investors? Hopefully guys are doing well out there. If you're like me and you own 69 shares of Tesla, you've got a few in the driveway. Look, things have been good over the past year. Over the past 6 months, really since the election, this thing has absolutely skyrocketed. So you try not to look at your quote unquote net worth as it has skyrocketed as it relates to your Tesla investment. But I'm not blind. I'm not blind to the fact, and the reality is this company is wildly overvalued, maybe more overvalued than any stock that I've covered. And I've covered them all from Palantir to SoFi. This thing is as overvalued as you get because revenues came in at just $25.7 billion. We got a $1.28 trillion market cap on this one. And look, if the growth rate was like Palantir or even like a SoFi or even like JP Morgan or with some of these AT&T, 2% growth, folks. 2% growth in the most recent quarter. And honestly, Wall Street is expecting things to get a little bit better as we move forward with Tesla, but can they deliver? Q1 is expected 20% growth. We are lapping some quarters that weren't that great for Tesla, but can you deliver 20% growth next quarter? I don't know what the growth driver is going to be. And then you got Q2 of this year, 10%, mid-teens growth thereafter. I don't know if Tesla is going to be able to do that. We'll talk about that here in a moment. Now, automobile revenues declined, profits declined, but I want to get into the conference call because here's where the exciting stuff is with Tesla because, again, you got to have a belief, faith, and commitment that this company is going to be able not only deliver these products, which the company has proven that it's been able to do. So it's not really the belief that they'll deliver. It's what the demand and the revenue and the profits are going to be. Preparation already underway for that Cybercab. This is in Gigafactory, Texas, with volume production. When Tesla says volume production, I think it's a fair amount of units. That's planned for 2026. These are these steering wheel-less cars that basically just drive you around. It's like a two-seater, I believe, and you can put some stuff in the back. Where these will get full regulation and allowed to be drive around, that remains a question mark, although they have a big presence in Texas as they've moved their headquarters there, and they believe that they will be launching unsupervised full self-driving as a paid service in Austin, Texas in June of this year. This, I believe, because Texas kind of maybe moves a little faster than they do out here in California, at least when it comes to regulation. And so it looks like to me, the first test on full self-driving without somebody in the car, this is without anybody in the car, unsupervised is really the term they're using. That'll happen in Austin, Texas, June of this year. Obviously a small market. And when we're talking about a $1.3 trillion company, this isn't even going to move the needle. But You got a big market out here, obviously in California. And they believe, despite the back and forth, I mean, Gavin Newsom is no friend of Elon Musk. We'll see if he, puts a thorn in this. Again, it's crazy to say that, considering the presence that Tesla still has out here in California, but the two just simply don't get along. I'm sure you probably can realize why. But he says he's confident they'll release unsupervised full self-driving here in California this year, and maybe other regions in the U.S. later this year. Now, obviously, California, they've given permits to Waymo and those types of things. But again, Gavin Newsom can kind of be, he can be a little fickle. So can Elon Musk. So can any politician and any billionaire. So we'll see what happens. But if he can get the market cracked open here in California, that would be incredibly bullish. Who this is not in bullish for, this is incredibly devastating for a company like Uber and Lyft. Okay, it's just a bottom line. You've got Waymo that is taking market share, or at least keeping market share from continuing to move over to those companies. And once Tesla kind of moves into the market, I mean, I think it's RIP for those companies. Now, unsupervised full self-driving, which is basically no one at the wheel of these cars in almost every U.S. market by the end of this year. Limited only to regulatory issues. You both have state and federal. Obviously, with Elon Musk being the right-hand man to President Trump, I don't think you'll have any problem from the federal perspective, but will all of these cities open this up? Certainly Texas, Florida, some other ones, maybe a little more friendly than New York and California. We'll see if those politicians play politics or if they roll this out. We'll see what happens. Now, Tesla has revealed they have one crash per every basically 6 million miles driven. That compares to a human where you have one crash every million miles driven. So it's clearly safer. Okay. I have a Tesla. I have full self-driving. I'm not going to be one of these guys that simps. And every time a new update comes out, people are like, my mind is blown. It's not that great. Okay. I have to intervene on full self-driving, particularly around the city, almost every time I use it. On the highway and the freeway, it's unbelievable. I would probably sit in the back seat and not be at the wheel. In the city, it's not as good. It's not as good. But Elon Musk is confident that Tesla owners like myself will be able to add or subtract our car to the robotaxi fleet in 2026, kind of like an Airbnb. So if you own a Tesla, it can be very much like having a vacation home or an extra home or even an extra room in your house where when you're not using it, you can rent it out on Airbnb. That's the plan with these robotaxi fleet. Yes, you're going to get these Cybercabs, but the other part of that is if you own a Tesla, you're going to be able to dump it into this robotaxi fleet. So we'll see what happens. I mean, I tell you what, I'd be excited if that happens. If it happens in 2026, I'd be surprised, but that's the direction they're going at. Now, the Optimus robot. There are not many companies on the face of the planet that can pull this off. There's a couple of startups, but they don't have the manufacturing facilities. They don't have the battery technology. They don't have the software. They don't have it all in one piece. Tesla has it all in one piece. And either you believe this or you don't, but Optimus units plan to be sold to other companies in the second half of 2026. So we're a year away, a little over a year away from these potentially getting sold to other companies. Companies like Walmart, companies like Amazon, if they want them. There's going to be a lot of companies that I could see, maybe even construction, okay? You've got, that stuff going on with President Trump. He's kicking out some people, and those people tend to work in construction and those types of roles. And so here's maybe a replacement. I'm not trying to make a joke. This is the reality. Second half of 2026, that'll be interesting. Now, we've got some hyperbole coming from Elon Musk here. Okay, this is probably more of a fact, but some of this is a fact. But you got to believe the guy when he says we plan to ramp the Optimus robot production faster than anything that has ever been ramped. You can see why he likes Trump. Trump likes to exaggerate just like this, just like Elon Musk. Very similar type of thing. An order of magnitude per year. I mean, he just throws these things in. Now, here's the thing. That's kind of a growth we're talking about. It won't be long before we're making 100 million. He's saying that they're going to be able to make 100 million of these robots a year, and he's saying that it's not long. Now, with Elon Musk, you always got to take his timelines with a grain of salt. Not long. We could be sitting here on the Investor Channel. I got gray hair, and so do you. We'll see what happens. But, man, that's a bold statement. This is probably the boldest statement on the conference call. He said Optimus has the potential to be north of a 10 trillion, not billion, trillion with a T in revenue. Now, I think you can probably get here when you're talking about Optimus. Some of you guys, I can tell in the comments, can't get there. I don't think you're thinking about this deeply enough, or you have some deep-seated hate for Tesla. Take Tesla, take Optimus, just look at this right here. If this is something that could be mass-produced into millions of units, I am here to tell you there are probably 2 or 3 companies that would easily take 2 or 3 million of these just on their own. UPS, FedEx, Amazon, Walmart, etc., construction companies, all that type of stuff. So yes, the demand is probably there. I don't know though. 100 million units in the short term, long term, I have no idea. Also a $10 trillion valuation or $10 trillion in sales. Even if Elon Musk is 90% off here, even if his exaggerations are off by a factor of 90, Tesla stock is still wildly undervalued, believe it or not. If he's right and this is a $1 trillion product, even if he's right and this is a $500 billion product, this robot right here, if this is a $500 billion product, Tesla shares are, they'll be some of the best performing stock in the world. So it's just a fact. You can just do the math. $500 billion, give them 20%, 10% gross margin. And yeah, you can do the math. Some things are doing well over at Tesla. This energy and storage business, that was up 113%. They continue to expand the capacity. I think they've got a mega factory coming online in China. They plan a third one here in the United States. But everything else was actually pretty ugly from a financial perspective. Model 3, Model Y down 8%. Other models were up 25%, probably spurred a little bit by the Cybertruck. You had solar or storage deployed. This is the energy business. That was up big time. Supercharger locations, so the growth rate on this is starting to slow down. It was kind of a mid-30s growth rate. We're now down into the teens, although I can kind of see it out here in California. When I've had my Tesla for several years, and you would drive them around, and sometimes it was a little spotty on superchargers. Now it's pretty well covered, at least out here in California where you live. Might be a little different. I don't like company graphs. You'll notice you go to other channels and they'll literally be like a salesman showing you exactly what the CEO just showed you. So like graphs, especially company presentation graphs, if you're watching these things and this is what they're showing you, they're not adding any value. But this was a key visual that Tesla showed you, was that they're showing your average cost of vehicle. And they're showing you dating back to Q1 of 2023. This continues to move lower. It probably supports the fact that they're going to be able to make these relatively, we'll put this in air quote, relatively cheaply, and then monetize them as they, drive people around. Also gives credence to the fact that Tesla could be coming out with a quote, cheaper car relatively soon. Although when you look at the prices of these cars, both new, used, leases, financed, they aren't very expensive. If you can't afford a Tesla, and I say this every video and somebody cries in the comments, if you can't afford a Tesla, you're not working hard enough. Okay. Whether it's on your skills or in their current job, if you can't afford a Tesla, you need to get things together because they're not very expensive. Current Model Y is sitting at about $34,000. I think this is before incentives. They're launching a new Model Y. What I noticed is the price was $12,000 higher. There's more features. There's more stuff in this car. They call this the launch series. So maybe a subsequent model will come out that's closer to kind of that mid-30s price range. But I did notice the price is higher. And so that might impact sales at least in the shorter term. What I'm going to point out from the revenue perspective, because again, it wasn't good for Tesla. Gross profit came in at 4.2 billion. Last quarter, it was 5. Last year was 4.4. So you have a massive decline there. Income from operations coming in at just $1.6 billion. That it was over 2.7 in the previous quarter. So it's not good. But we will point out the energy and storage business coming in at about $3 billion in revenue. That's a record for the company. Just last quarter was 2.4. So you're seeing an acceleration there. $3 billion, and they have a total cost of goods over there, or at least kind of cost of revenues at about 2.3. So printed like about $700 million, a little over that actually, $700 million of operating profit or gross profit in the energy business. That's a positive. And it also shows you, what that shows you with Tesla is they can actually take these new ideas and they can scale them, and they can scale them into profit, because the energy business is now it is about 50% of the income from operations. Okay. Now, the company continues to do a great job no matter what you think about Elon Musk. He's a brilliant operator. Okay. This company in a difficult environment for cars, because we could cover any car company right now, and Tesla's still a car company with an energy business. Okay. Ford is not selling a ton of vehicles. Everybody's having troubles there, including some companies look like they're going bankrupt and those types of things. So, but R&D and selling general administrative, all relatively in line with where they've been over the past couple of quarters. You've seen some increase here, but they're still profitable over at Tesla. Won't show you the balance sheet. I'll save you time. Balance sheet's fine. Company has plenty of cash. Everything looks good from that perspective. Now, technically, we have hit our head against, a miracle number, 420. 420 is overhead resistance on Tesla. Easy number for some of you guys to remember. Get above 420. Could have a breakout. We've tried and we've failed multiple times over the past, basically the past month or so. Tesla's tried to get over 420. It's peaked up to 480, gotten rejected, and kind of pulled back into this range. So with Tesla, you're looking for a meaningful break above that. It's probably several days of close. This is a weekly chart. So maybe a week or two close over 420 could signal a breakout. More likely, though, you hover at this range, maybe get rejected, pull lower on this one, and you're buying. And you're buying only if you believe Cybercab, if you believe people will be able to launch this unsupervised full self-driving and kind of launch your Tesla into this fleet. If you believe in all this stuff, and I think the number one thing to believe in, not necessarily the $10 trillion mark, but the fact that the company is going to be able to pull this product off. If they pull this off, there is no other public company that will have a product like this. And in fact, not just public, but private as well, especially if they're able to make these in the tens of thousands, even hundreds of thousands of units, there'll be nobody in the country with this, and they will have massive amount of demand. I'm not talking about you and I putting laundry or cleaning our yard or mowing the lawn. There are companies out there that will love to buy these, especially if they're in, really any price range, but particularly the price range Tesla has advertised, $25,000, $30,000. If they can pull that off, and these things can actually do something, and again, that is a stretch, but if you believe it, then yes, this stock is a buy on the pullbacks. If you don't believe in any of this stuff, you should probably go short shares right now. And if you don't have the stones to do that, then you shouldn't say anything about Tesla. Hopefully you guys enjoyed today's video. Again, full disclosure, I own a Tesla. I've got 69 shares. Life is good, and we'll see what happens. Good luck with your investments.